My girlfriend tried to dump her $100,000 debt on me after marriage. So, I exposed her lies and walked away for good. I'm a 28-year-old guy who's always believed in trust as the core of any relationship. It's not like I'm some relationship guru, but I figured if you love someone, you're upfront about the important stuff. For 3 years, I thought Lisa, my 29-year-old girlfriend, was on the same page. She was outgoing, ambitious, and always had this energy about her that made me feel like life could be exciting. We moved in together after a year of dating, and it felt like the logical step forward. Things were going great, or at least I thought they were. Looking back now, the signs were all there, but I just didn't see them for what they were. Lisa was never big on discussing money. I'm not a millionaire or anything, but I like to keep things organized. My student loans are paid off, I have a savings plan, and I'm working on a down payment for a house. Lisa, on the other hand, always made these offhand comments about how she was terrible with money or how I was the responsible one in the relationship. At first, it felt like harmless jokes. She'd laugh it off and say things like, "I'll let you handle the adulting when we're married." I'd laugh too because, honestly, I didn't think she meant it. A few months ago, she started bringing up marriage a lot. Not in a casual, let's dream about the future way, but in this persistent, almost pushy way. "We should just get married already," she'd say. Or, "Why wait? We're already living together. Let's skip the big wedding and just elope." It didn't feel romantic. I told her we should plan it out, talk about finances, maybe even save up for a small wedding. She'd always brush it off and say, "We'll figure it out when the time comes." One day, I found a credit card statement on the kitchen counter. It wasn't hidden or anything, just sitting there. I saw the balance was over $12,000, and my first thought was, that's a lot of money for one card. I asked her about it when she got home, and she immediately got defensive. "Oh, that's just one of my cards," she said. "I'm paying it off. Don't worry about it." "One of your cards? How many do you have?" I asked. "Why are you grilling me? It's not a big deal. Everyone has debt." That didn't sit right with me, but I let it go. I didn't want to come across as a control freak, but the way she reacted left me feeling uneasy. A week later, I was working from home, and Lisa had left her laptop open on the dining table. She was logged into her banking app. I glanced at the screen and froze. It wasn't just one credit card with $12,000. She had several cards maxed out, personal loans, and a car loan she'd defaulted on. When she got home that evening, I showed her what I saw. "Lisa, we need to talk about this. You're over $100,000 in debt." She stared at me for a moment and then tried to play it off. "You're overreacting. I have it under control." "Under control? Lisa, you're making minimum payments on everything. This isn't under control." She started crying, saying she was embarrassed and didn't know how to tell me. Then she said something that completely floored me. "I figured once we got married, we'd tackle it together. You're so good with money, you'd help me fix it." I just stared at her. "Lisa, you've been hiding this from me for 3 years. How do you expect me to just take it on? What's the big deal?" she said, wiping her tears. "Marriage is about sharing everything, right? If you loved me, you'd want to help." I didn't even know how to respond. I told her I needed time to think. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. This wasn't just about the debt. It was about the fact that she'd hidden it from me, lied about it, and then expected me to clean up her mess. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. Lisa started pushing harder for marriage. She'd make comments like, "If we're not married soon, I don't know if I can keep waiting," or "I've already told my family we're planning a wedding, so you need to make a decision." She even tried to guilt trip me, saying, "You're leaving me to deal with this all alone. What kind of partner does that?" Then one of her friends congratulated me on finally proposing, and I realized Lisa had been lying to people about us being engaged. When I confronted her, she shrugged and said, "I just wanted to move things along. I knew you'd come around eventually." That was it for me. I told her it was over. I couldn't be with someone who lied and manipulated me like that. But I stood my ground. I thought breaking up with Lisa would be the end of it, but I was wrong. A month later, she called me from an unknown number. She was sobbing, saying she'd been in a car accident and was in the hospital. She claimed her insurance wouldn't cover the bills and begged me to help her out. She said, "You're the only person I can turn to." I asked her which hospital she was at, and she got defensive. "I don't have time to explain everything. Just trust me. I need your help." Something felt off, so I called the hospital she claimed to be at. They had no record of her being there. Later, I found out from a mutual friend that Lisa had been out shopping that day. When she called me again, I told her I knew she was lying. She tried to spin it, saying, "I just thought if I seemed desperate enough, you'd help me." At that point, I realized Lisa wasn't just irresponsible, she was outright manipulative. But what came next proved she wasn't done trying to mess with my life. A couple of weeks later, I started noticing strange things happening at work. I couldn't believe it. Lisa had gone as far as impersonating me to sabotage my work and drag my name through the mud. I was furious, but I kept my cool and took action. I reported the emails to my company's IT department and collected all the evidence. Then I had a lawyer draft a cease and desist letter to send to Lisa, warning her that if she didn't stop, I would pursue legal action for defamation. I also reached out to my clients personally, explaining the situation and assuring them it was being dealt with. Thankfully, my employer was supportive, and most of my clients were understanding. Lisa's plan to ruin my job not only failed but backfired. Word got around that she was behind the emails, and people started seeing her for who she really was. You'd think she would stop there, but Lisa wasn't done. One day, my mom called me, confused and upset. Lisa had reached out to her, claiming I'd promised to marry her and take care of her debt, only to abandon her at the last minute. I was beyond angry. Lisa was trying to manipulate my family, knowing they might sympathize with her if they didn't have the full story. But instead of letting my anger take over, I calmly explained everything to my mom. I showed her the evidence of Lisa's lies, including her fake emails and manipulative messages, and told her about the harassment I'd been dealing with since the breakup. My mom was shocked. She immediately blocked Lisa and promised to warn the rest of the family. To make sure Lisa couldn't pull the same stunt with anyone else, I sent an email to my entire family explaining the situation in detail. That shut her down completely on the family front. My parents and siblings were furious on my behalf and made it clear they wanted nothing to do with Lisa. It was a relief to have their support, but the fact that she had even tried to involve them left a bitter taste in my mouth. Then came the final, most outrageous stunt. One day, I received a bill in the mail for a credit card I hadn't opened. At first, I thought it was some kind of mix-up, but when I called the credit card company, they confirmed the account had been opened using my name and partial information. The charges on the card were insane: designer clothes, electronics, and even a luxury spa package. I immediately knew who was behind it. Lisa had access to some of my personal information from when we lived together, and she'd used it to commit identity theft. I didn't waste any time. I disputed the charges with the credit card company and filed a fraud report. I also reported Lisa to the police and added the incident to the harassment record I had already started against her. With all the evidence I had been collecting, the emails, the fake hospital story, the defamation attempts, it wasn't hard to prove that she was behind it. She tried to deny it, of course, but the evidence was overwhelming. She ended up with a hefty fine and a criminal record. For the first time, I felt like I was finally free of her games. The legal action wasn't about revenge, it was about protecting myself and making sure she couldn't pull the same stunts on someone else. Even after facing legal consequences, Lisa still tried to smear my name. She spread rumors among our mutual friends, claiming I had abused her trust and used her for years before dumping her when she needed me most. A few people bought into her lies, but most of our mutual friends knew better. I shared my side of the story with anyone who asked, providing the proof I had. Slowly, her support network crumbled. One day, I posted my story anonymously on a financial advice forum, hoping it might help someone else avoid a similar situation. Ironically, one of Lisa's old college friends stumbled across the post and recognized her from the details. That moment felt like a strange kind of closure, knowing that her reputation had caught up with her. Eventually, Lisa moved out of town. I heard from mutual acquaintances that she tried her tricks on someone else, but they caught on early and cut her off. As for me, I've been focusing on rebuilding my life. I froze my credit, added fraud alerts to my accounts, and took steps to ensure no one could ever steal my information again. I've also been more cautious about who I let into my life. Looking back, I'm grateful I found out the truth before it was too late. If I had married Lisa, I would have been tied to her debt, her lies, and her manipulations. Love isn't enough without honesty and trust, and she proved that over and over again. This whole ordeal taught me some hard lessons about relationships and boundaries. It's not enough to love someone, you need to make sure they respect you, too. And if someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. I walked away from this mess with my finances, my reputation, and my peace of mind intact. Lisa? She's left to deal with the consequences of her actions. And honestly, that's all the closure I need.